Okay, what did people see? Yeah, some hot fat, target-like structure. So sometimes it's the shadow that your brain gets used to picking out after a while, and not so much the I see a stone, but why is there such a sharp shadow all of a sudden? So stones will look different, and here's one that looks very like flat and thin, but with very sharp shadowing behind it. So let's just watch that play out, and your brain over time will see the sweep of that shadow rather than be like, I'm looking at the appendix and the thing within, and oh, is that a stone? It's just like, why is there such a sharp, dark band that popped into view? Can people see the psoas? So this is one of those, like, why can't I see the psoas like before? I'm compressing pretty hard because from the top of the psoas here all the way up is just sick bowel, stagnant. Remember, the longer that material stays in small intestine, the more fecalized they become. Like, small intestine can absorb water. You just have to have stuff hang out in it for a long time, which is why a bowel obstruction you can eventually get, fecal vomiting with, because you can absorb enough water out of your small intestine that the stuff begins to look more like the material of the large intestine, which is what's happening overlying the psoas. And then here in the lateral side, you've got this large swirl that seemed like it had a dark shadow boom there. So this is almost certainly a perforated appendicitis with an appendicolith. Bonus question. If you are 5 or under and you have an appendicolith, what is the chance you have appendicitis?
Very high.
Close to 100%.
Yeah.
What is the chance you're perforated? Yeah, basically. I mean, you'll find a case somewhere where people say no, but that's a very, very strongly predictive feature. An appendicolith in a child who looks like they have appendicitis under the age of 5, they are almost certainly perforated.
It's a good thing that at this point we know you're like,
yeah,
that's one of your like go-to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hear the words start coming out, and I know exactly where this is going.
Well, 1, 2, 3, 4 no, but I'm preaching to the others.
That's what we're gonna say, We're gonna come back.
It's just
it's a quote you, right?
It's a piece of the puzzle, So what the hell's going on here? Yeah, and you'll see how when you've got a really dilated loop of small intestine, as you roll from one wall to the other, you get those plica that you see coming together, the edges. So I know this is small intestine. And this was another case of a perforated, distended abdomen, peritonitic, 14-year-old with like a 1-week history of increasing pain. And this could be a variety of things. This could be ileus, this could be mechanical obstruction, but then you go to the right lower quadrant and it's most tender, and like, what causes a diffuse obstructive picture in an otherwise healthy 14-year-old? Like, on your rankings of things, sure, appendix is near the top. And another thing it's not a secondary sign, but it's goes along with like where you find things. Okay, we've got our circular structure, and you notice here there's like 2 circles, right? This is another thing that we have to sometimes stop and appreciate, is that the appendix does not run in a straight line. It runs in curves, and so your beam runs in a straight line and may cut the appendix entering and then in another plane exiting through its path. So you might see 2 circles. That's just the thing going squarely underneath you. We've got fat around it. What's this? Right. So every now and then you'll get an appendix that makes its way all the way up to the liver. So, sometimes those kids with right upper quadrant pain that you go to scan, you want to consider like, there's such thing as a subhepatic appendicitis. And if we turn to the literature for trying to help us with all these findings we've just gone over for perforation, then certainly, you know, those big abscesses we've showed, yeah, you don't need to be a genius to know that's very predictive of perforation. That loss of the echogenic submucosal layer in terms of how it performs, you know, its sensitivity for perforation is 100%. You have to spend a long time scanning it, and we're talking now about more of the microscopic perforation than we are the clinical perforated appearance. And its specificity is decent at 72. And then overall in pediatrics, the presence of an appendicolith has a specificity of 92%, with it approaching 100 as you drop into the age group that's 5 and under. And other authors have pointed out abscess with loculated fluid, appendicolith, dilated bowel loops, and increased periportal echogenicity. You'll see that on a lot of ultrasound reports. It's a very non-specific sign that the liver is processing a lot of inflammatory stuff in the abdomen. This is just an example of what they mean, and it's always tough because you don't have anything to compare to for that patient, right? Like here's the normal state of periportal echoes, and here's how much periportal echoes or biliary system echoes you get in a case of perforated appendicitis. We have played around with it a bit. It doesn't tend to enter into a lot of our decision making. So if we're going to start doing this, we should know some stuff about how good we are. So the best article out there, and not the only one, but probably the best one, is Adam Sivitz, who looked at 264 kids with suspected appendicitis, 85 of whom actually ended up having appendicitis. So when you think about your, like, who do I send for radiology ultrasound, does that ratio sound about right? 85 positives out of 264 where you're like, it's about right to me. You know, it's one of those things where you go and look at papers that you want to critique, right? If they send 10,000 kids and only 84 are positive, then are they really suspected of having appendicitis? If they send 100 kids and 84 are positive, then are they really operating in the way that most emergency rooms operate in terms of who gets blood work and who gets an ultrasound? And probably the best way to think about any kinds of these results is not really in terms of sensitivity and specificity, because that ignores your pretest probability, that ignores the prevalence of the condition in your population. But likelihood ratios are really nice. So sure, their sensitivity is around 85 and their specificity is around 93, but the really nice thing here is look at how high their positive likelihood ratio is, way more than that level of 6 that we like. And the negative likelihood ratio is also a very nice way of reassuring yourself when you're using this test. And this is with a wide range of scanners that are reflective of, like, our division. Some of the scanners who are scanning the most are the most experienced, but then there are fellows both in POCUS and in PEM in this mixture also. So is this good enough? Is sensitivity of 85 and specificity of 93 with confidence intervals like this, is that good enough?